So this new moon will be taking place on November 20th, 2025 at 28 degrees of the sign of Scorpio. Now, what's really interesting about this new moon is that it will be occurring simultaneously with Mercury's inferior conjunction with the Sun. This is the conjunction that takes place when Mercury is retrograde. And part of why we call it an inferior conjunction is because during the inferior conjunction, Mercury is positioned in between Earth and the Sun, as opposed to the superior conjunction, which takes place when Mercury is direct and the Sun is placed in between the Earth and Mercury. So Mercury is reaching out, in a sense, up and away into space, into the heavens, while during the inferior conjunction, it's pointing to earthly matters, to, what's below. And I think particularly when we are discussing sign of Scorpio, we are often talking about things or focused on things which are hidden beneath the surface, things which are not always seen but are felt, as being a water sign, a fixed water sign at that. So if you're imagining water which is running through a pipe, or water which is running underground through a sewer, these are waters that you cannot see, but nonetheless feed into and are connected to the world above. So through an astrological lens, through a psychological lens even, we're dealing with feelings, emotions, desires, memories, things which drive action from beneath the surface, things which are not always fully conscious, or things which are not always readily communicated. Traditionally, Scorpio and other water signs, Pisces and Cancer, were referred to as mute signs, that they did not speak, in a sense. And while this usually isn't literally true, I'm sure we all know people who have heavy water sign placements who speak quite a bit, right? Water is nonetheless an element which pertains to topics which are not as easily communicated through speech. While many an author and poet has attempted to convey in words the experience of a mother's love, or the ineffable beauty of a sunset, or what it feels like to lose somebody, there isn't a lot of data in those sensations, those experiences. There's not a lot that could be received and understood meaningfully without being able to connect to one's own emotions, to one's own memories, to one's own experience. Sometimes when you try to explain how you feel about something to somebody who doesn't have a point of reference, or who wasn't there on the day that it happened, sometimes we choose not to try at all, or we say very little, or say only as much as is necessary, which can come across as rather reserved or rather secretive or mysterious. But I think this is the quality of muteness that is being described in water signs, which I think makes this particular new moon with Mercury Cazimi taking place at the same time rather fascinating, particularly when we have it so deeply configured to other planets. This new moon and Mercury Cazimi taking place at 28 degrees are also in a very close trine with Neptune and Pisces at 29 degrees, and very closely opposed by Uranus and Taurus at 29 degrees. Furthermore, the Sun and Moon are just separating from trines with Jupiter in Cancer at 25 degrees and Saturn in Pisces at 25 degrees, both of which Mercury will, through its retrograde motion, will be applying to trines with, really just bringing all the themes that we have been discussing, if you have been with me over the past month or so, around this grand trine in water signs. And really, as I've been sitting with this new moon, what it means, and trying to find some kind of vehicle through which to talk about it, what's kept coming back for me is during the thrice monthly Decan walk, which I host with a small group, during our Scorpio 3 meeting, which is the Decan that this new moon is taking place in, one of the members of the group brought up the story of the Little Mermaid, specifically the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale version, which is a little bit darker than the Disney movie version. But as it kept coming back to me and I revisited the story, I was kind of struck with how much resonance there is. And if you're not familiar with the story, or at least not the original Hans Christian Andersen version of the story, it is essentially a story about a little mermaid who is a princess and grows up beneath the sea with her mermaid sisters and her mermaid grandmother. And it's a good life, right? And she grows up among artifacts of the world above. particular one statue of a human boy, which ignites within her a curiosity that continues to grow until age 15 she gains the privilege of getting to go up to the surface to catch a little bit of a glimpse of what the world above is about. And when the Little Mermaid's time to go to the surface comes, she spots a prince having a birthday party on the deck of a ship and just falls in love with him. But then a violent storm hits and she ends up saving the prince from drowning and, brings him ashore. And when she sees a woman from this temple that she left him by, she, dips back under the sea and runs home. She talks to her grandmother and asks about humans and learns that humans are different than mermaids. While they have a shorter lifespan than mermaids, who live like a few hundred years or something, humans have an immortal soul, unlike mermaids. Mermaids don't have souls. And so now it's really on. Not only has she been curious about the world above her whole life, there's also a young prince that she's got the hots for, and this immortal soul thing sounds pretty cool. And so, desperate to fulfill this need, this hunger that has been awoken within her, she goes and visits the sea witch, who offers her a potion, which will give her legs but will cost her her voice. Furthermore, while she will be able to dance beautifully with her new legs, the second big caveat is that it will cause her excruciating pain every moment that she walks on them. It will feel like her feet are constantly being stabbed by knives, and it'll totally suck. Now, the witch also tells her that part of the deal is if she's able to win the love of and marry this prince that she has the hots for, despite not having a tongue or voice, then she will also be granted an immortal soul. But if she fails, if the prince marries somebody else, she will die with a broken heart, miserable, and dissolve into sea foam like all the other mermaids do. So, of course, she agrees to this, and she drinks this potion, which, by the way, apparently feels like being stabbed in the throat with a hot sword when you drink it. She does this and begins trying to make this prince fall in love with her. And she manages to make good friends with him. He tells her all of his secrets. She becomes his number one confidant, but he keeps talking about this beautiful woman that saved his life when he was drowning, and that all he wants is to marry this beautiful woman. And of course, being mute, she's unable to tell him that it was her. And so eventually, the prince goes looking for the woman that saved him, goes to the temple where he was rescued, sees the woman who found him on the beach, and says, "That's her, that's my girl," and marries her. So as the wedding's taking place, the mermaid, heartbroken, knowing that she's about to die, prepares to be turned into sea foam. And the mermaid's sisters show up, say, sorry about your luck. That obviously didn't work out so great. But if you take this knife and go and stab the prince to death with it, you can have your old life back and you can join us and be a mermaid and enjoy, the 300 years or so of mermaid life. Doesn't that sound nice? Especially after what you've been through. And she takes the knife, sneaks into the prince's room, and is about to do it and says, "Nah, can't even do it. I just love him too much." And she jumps into the sea as dawn breaks and her body turns into sea foam. But instead of ceasing to be entirely, she turns into an air spirit called a sliff, which gives her the opportunity to go around the world doing good deeds, which, if she does enough of them, will earn her an immortal soul. And that's the end. So there are a few things about this new moon in Scorpio that I think map on pretty cleanly to this story. And a few things that don't, which I'll get to as well. But firstly, we have this idea of longing, of a desire which overtakes and supplants the Little Mermaid's desire for anything else. She's willing to give up her entire life as a mermaid and also endure tremendous suffering in order to achieve this thing that she wants, right? Furthermore, she's, in a sense, willing to violate the laws of nature in order to fulfill this dream, right? She sees this thing she wants, this person that she wants, this prince, who we could take at face value. She wants him, and so she's just pulled towards him. But in the story, we get at least some background that the Little Mermaid has had this quality since she was a little an even littler mermaid, since she was a little girl, enchanted by stories of the world above the surface, stories about the humans, and early on became kind of enamored with this statue of a boy which had sunk to the bottom of the ocean and was kept in her garden, and she had built ideas around the statue of this whole new world, right? And she spends her childhood waiting for her moment, her time to see for herself what the surface is about. And so when she sees the prince, he becomes this living representation of this fantasy, this dream that she's been building up her whole life. And after she rescues the prince, goes back home under the sea with her fantasy of this life above the sea, now strengthened by, having an experience, having had a living thing to attach it to, she goes, seeking more answers. And she talks to her grandmother and she learns more, and it takes on a spiritual dimension when she learns that the humans have souls, or at least that's what her grandmother tells her. And this really takes the fantasy, for lack of a better term, or her fixation on being human, being with this prince, takes on an existential tone, where this prince essentially becomes the singular object which can fulfill all of her desires, to have a soul, to experience life on the land. And that's what prompts her to take this rather radical decision to forsake her current life entirely in order to achieve this singular fixation, to get this one thing that will make all of her dreams come true. And this is a quality that we can maybe find in Scorpio, particularly towards the end of Scorpio, to a large degree all on its own. However, I really think it speaks to what Uranus, this opposition with Uranus in Taurus, an Earth sign, no less, is introducing into the equation. This, what could be experienced as maybe a radical impulse to abandon the known, abandon the status quo. Neptune in Pisces very much introduces this romantic fantasy, perhaps, very much sells the dream that fulfilling this desire, fulfilling this all-consuming desire is going to solve everything. It's going to make all your dreams come true. All you got to do is just keep chasing the end of that rainbow, and you'll find the pot of gold and more. Even if it sounds impossible, even if it breaks all the rules. This is really kind of the quality that this new moon in Scorpio has. But as with any new moon, it's as much a clearing out, a releasing, as it is the planting of something new. And I think central to what is going to be coming up during this new moon is this question of what are we willing to release or give up in order to make space for the new. And I think this brings me back to the main theme here with this new moon and this part of Scorpio, this third decan, where we find things which have very deep roots. And often the things we want, the people we're drawn to, the job we're going after at any given time, have their origin or basis in early experiences, sometimes traumatic experiences, where the experience of lack, or even the experience of something that we liked, that we wanted to keep and hold on to, but weren't able to, which can be its own kind of trauma, forms this vacuum, forms this hole internally that seeks fulfillment, that pulls us towards things which resemble that shape, which resemble the vacuum that was formed. And sometimes the bigger the hole, if you will, the larger that vacuum, the greater the hunger, the stronger the pull, which can sometimes lead us to go to great lengths to fulfill that void, fulfill that emptiness. And I think part of what makes this story so compelling in terms of speaking to what this new moon is bringing up, what it's describing, is that it's, kind of questionable whether or not this is the right choice for the Little Mermaid. And it sort of depends on how you look at it. In fact, in the original version of the story, or the way Hans Christian Andersen originally wrote it, it didn't have the happy ending where she joins the daughters of spirit, or whatever, the air spirits, and ends up on the path to getting the soul, the immortal soul, but she just dies, she just turns to sea foam. He added that later on, and some people choose to see that as the true ending. From that perspective, it certainly looks like she sacrificed a lot of herself in order to have a shot at becoming what this prince, becoming what this object of her desire needed her to be in order to not just love her, but give her access to this spirit thing, right? which, from another perspective, is just something that her grandma told her. Is that even real? Which, we might be dealing with a little bit of with this Neptune thing. With what Neptune introduces into this new moon is this fantasy element, or this glamour or dream which has been put around things which may or may not be real, or at least certainly not rooted in anything tangible. And if you look at it from that angle, she starts to look like a real chump, right? The story kind of looks like a warning against giving too much of yourself in order to achieve an unrealistic or even reasonable desire. However, if you consider it with the happy ending, this also brings in something I think which is relevant and useful, where we're seeing that she does in a sense get what she wants through this sacrifice, through this willingness to release what is no longer fulfilling, which is to be a mermaid. And this is an important angle to look at this new moon from, where when we're dealing with that vacuum, right, that emptiness where deep and powerful desires come from, and we go out in pursuit of things which fulfill that. Sometimes we find something that seems to meet that need or match the thing we want, but is possibly bad for us, or we hold on to it because it feels better to have something that, even if it makes us sick, even if it doesn't feel fulfilling, is better than being empty. And I think that's more than anything what I would like you to consider when thinking about this new moon. When the Little Mermaid goes to see the sea witch, this choice to pursue life as a human, to get, her little human legs, to endure the physical pain of essentially being split apart, what's described in the story, and continuously endure the pain of having these legs which aren't hers, or which aren't natural, or, what she knows. It is not a decision that she takes lightly. She has to leave her sisters, her family, the world that she knows, and it's heartbreaking. But whether or not you choose to see it as a fantasy or a delusion or, a big mistake, it does speak to the challenge and the sacrifice built into pursuing something that you truly want. So it does involve letting go of something else, something that you may have wanted, may have loved dearly, but is now dragging you down. And the way I like to think about the story is that even if the prince, as the particular object that she was going after, even if she ended up suffering so much for something that wasn't actually ever going to be able to reciprocate, to be able to give her what she wanted, sometimes the thing that we want, or the object that we're pursuing, whether it's a job, whether it's a person or a new jacket, is just a stepping stone, or it's just the thing which most closely resembles the shape of what it is we're truly seeking. You could look at the story as the Little Mermaid, living deep in the depths of the water, living a life which is, fully materially oriented, at least according to Grandma. Where she, gets a nice 300-year run, and that's that. That what she was seeking was, spirit, was this maybe divine connection. And perhaps in the story, just the next highest thing, which would be the land. And in the story, the prince is the vehicle for her getting a soul. But what she's told is that if he loves her enough, if he marries her and commits to her, she gets to share, she gets to have a bit of his soul, basically, and be part of the greater joy of humanity in the future. That's, I think, what he says in the book, which, sounds cool going from, the perspective of not having one, right? But it kind of flies in the face of maybe what we think of as a soul, that it represents your personal connection to the greater source of spirit, the greater well of everything. And Hans Christian Andersen, being a Dane, being of Danish descent in the early 1800s, where the memory of the religious wars in Europe during the 1600s, where the Protestants split off from the Catholic Church and fought for religious independence, was not entirely forgotten. That consciousness around Danish identity, even Protestant identity, was still very much there. And one of the big points of contention between the Protestant or Lutheran inspired or derived churches that split off from the Catholic Church is the idea of a personal connection to God, that you don't need a priest or cardinal or, a whole church organization to serve as an intermediary between you and God. You have your own connection. It's according to the Protestant way of thinking. And I think a lot of the way that we conceptualize nowadays our sense of identity and how identity has been conceptualized, and how it is conceptualized within astrology through the sun being a singular point of consciousness, that while the Little Mermaid's initial quest to gain the love of this prince ended in failure and heartbreak, what she ends up with is a path to achieving what she wants, to achieving this soul thing, which is wholly her own. She's supposed to do good deeds for so many hundreds of years until she earns this soul. But once she has it, it's all hers. It's her own soul, not connected to anybody else or given out by anyone else. And so I think, especially given that we're having this new moon at the same time as the Mercury Cazimi, or the inferior conjunction of Mercury with the sun, Mercury was always traditionally seen as the psycho-pomp. Hermes, the god, had that role of going back and forth between the underworld, the realms of the dead, and the realms of the living, as well as Mount Olympus, the realm of the gods. Only Mercury could go to the underworld and back without getting stuck there. And this is, in a sense, what's being described with the inferior conjunction is Mercury diving deep, this journey into the underworld in order to retrieve something or to learn something or to send a message. And I think in this context, we're getting this moment to bring into awareness something which was forgotten, or what lies at the heart of our desires. While it may be a particular job, whatever it is you've fixated on, whatever it is you have chosen as the object which acquiring represents fulfillment, what is the origin story of that desire and what emptiness is trying to be filled? And we may find during this new moon that we're achieving some sort of clarity on what it is that you've been pursuing, perhaps recognizing a need to let go of something we've been chasing or something we've been holding on to, or something in your life which is dead or making you sick. There was a movie I watched recently called Bring Her Back, which this may contain some spoilers, and some of this sort of gets revealed throughout the movie, but if you don't want the spoilers, just, skip to the next segment. But it involves this woman who has lost her daughter, and she discovers through this sort of found footage, this ritual, which will allow her to bring her daughter back, to put her daughter's spirit in the body of another child, which necessarily involves ritually killing the host body that she wants to put her daughter's spirit into. And it also involves using another child to serve as an intermediary. And it's a very scary film, very dark film, but a very powerful one that really describes the lengths that we can go to regain something that we've lost, or somebody that we've lost. And honestly, I'm going to give some more spoilers just because I think it is really relevant here. But essentially, because this woman is so fixated on specifically bringing her daughter back, she can't accept the loss. She is not only willing to do horrendous things, but she is, it doesn't work out. And she is depriving herself of the opportunity, which she has really throughout the film, to not get her daughter back, but to find a new vessel for her love, for her maternal love. And I think it really speaks to what everything kind of comes back to with this new moon. That is painful as that period of grief or of letting go, or of having to sit with the emptiness that is left in the place of something that we've lost or something that we've have to move on from. While we can maybe go through to extreme lengths in order to revive something which is dead, and sometimes that can be productive, maybe not in this specific context, but in others. When we refuse to go through that process, when we hold on to something that we've lost, we deny ourselves the opportunity to fill that space with something else, something which could be truer to the spirit of what it is we wanted to begin with. And even if not truer in a sense, it is what's necessary in order to move on. And that hunger, that emptiness is powerful, but it is meant to be renewed. Nothing lasts forever. And because of how powerful that hunger is, it can be easy to hold on to things beyond their natural lifespan, hold on to patterns or hold on to beliefs which have long outlived their service to us. And sometimes that knowledge of that inevitable cycle, that inevitability of endings and change can lead us to focus on the inevitable loss of things rather than enjoying them while we have them, or similarly focus on things that we have lost, so that we're unable to enjoy what we currently have. So I think this is really what I want to invite all of you to engage with during this new moon, really in the coming weeks, sort of seeing what, spending some time with the emptiness that we all have inside us that we're always trying to fill with distractions, with stimulation, but we perhaps don't give ourselves the opportunity to actually understand what it is, what its shape is. And are there ways which you might be compromising your values in order to achieve something which doesn't actually fulfill, but merely substitutes the void, right? This may not be very comfortable. This new moon's likely to stir up some uncomfortable feelings, some uncomfortable memories or experiences, which I think it would be useful to pay attention to look at the things that happen around this new moon, which stir up potentially, dormant or latent feelings, which have deeper origins. What ghosts, if you will, are being stirred up from your past? How are you bringing those ghosts, if you will, into what you're trying to achieve now? You take Frankenstein, right? It's an amalgamation of different body parts, designed to build this sort of superhuman, to animate dead flesh, but with a new spirit. Or are we trying to bring back some spirit which has passed, right? In all these reanimation stories, you get, sometimes you get a demon instead of the spirit you're trying to bring back, or you get the spirit, but it's, somehow fundamentally changed because of its experience in the afterlife, and it's, not supposed to be there. There's all kinds of great horror that comes from trying to bring things back to life. And there's a lot of great things that get brought back to life. A lot of old things which are revived and reintroduced. However, even when we do that, when we revive old things, they inherently have to become something new. They have to be reformatted and reintegrated into current circumstances. We can't bring back the past, but we can learn from it, and we can give old spirits, if you will, an opportunity to find a new life. But we can't expect things to be what they were. You have to allow things to change and allow ourselves to change, allow our relationships to change. I think what it's all boiling down to is, while, we can get very dramatic about death metaphors and things ending, and yes, these are all true, probably more relevant to most of us, most of you, going to be, those little deaths that we experience all the time, those little endings that make way for new beginnings, and the ways that we sometimes stunt or stifle that process by trying to hold on, by resisting the cell turnover, the soil turnover. If we do that too long, we become like zombies, right? We lose connection with our lives and our choices and ourselves, really. At this Mercury retrograde, Cazimi, new moon thing, this is soul retrieval. This is diving into the void, into the emptiness, into the decomposing matter, to plant new seeds, to plant new things in that void, in that compost heap. So that is the essence of what I wanted to talk about today with this new moon in Scorpio. If you would like to book a reading with me, you can do so at my website, KylePierceAstrologer.com. I offer natal consultations, synastry readings, planetary remediation readings. I offer electional astrology services. I also offer recorded readings as well, if you are the shy type. Yeah, you can find all that at my website, KylePierceAstrologer.com. And let me know how this new moon's going for you. Leave a comment, and if this was helpful to you, share it with a friend. Thanks so much for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time. Ta-ta for now. Hey gang, wanted to take a quick break to tell you a little about the 2026 Magic Dates Electional Astrology Guide, written by astrologer and friend of the channel, Joe G, and myself, in collaboration with Astrology Hub. The guide includes 24 of the most auspicious dates of 2026 with full write-ups, rigorously handpicked by Joji and myself, which you can use to time those big events which you want to go as smoothly as possible, like launching a business, planning a date, or founding a cult. It also includes timeframes for the most powerful transits of the year, so you can coordinate your endeavors and make sure that the astrological winds are at your back. And what's actually really cool is that purchasing the guide also gives you the option of syncing this guide with your calendar, so you can easily plan your activities around what the astrology most readily supports. So if you want to get access to high quality and aptly named elections such as the Revelry, the Hail Mary, or my personal favorite, the Golzuka, you can pick up a copy and support the channel at the same time by heading over to www.astrologyhub.com/magickyle. That's www.astrology.com/magickyle. There will be a link in the description as well. I really hope you check it out. Joji and I really poured our hearts into picking these dates and doing the write-ups, and had a lot of fun while we were at it. So I'm actually really proud of our work. So yeah, go check it out. And with that, we will resume our regularly scheduled programming. Thanks.